Okay, hello and welcome everybody to the Partner Certification Kickstart this morning. My name is Carl and I will be leading you through the office hour, the second session, week 6 of the data engineering PCK training. So I am super excited. Essentially, we will be going through some guidelines and some more help to set you guys up for success of sitting your exams, hopefully soon in data engineering. So again, this is week 6 office hours. It's the second round that I'm running. The other one was week 3. We ran a couple of weeks back. Let's dive right into it. So essentially the agenda for today is what you see currently on the screen. We will be talking about our current progress. I will be sharing some guidance around the exam and what you really need to try to do in order to prepare yourself in the best possible way and to succeed on this exam. I will be walking through some commonly asked questions that we receive from students who want to get certified. So that's bullet number 3, the FAQ, and also the next steps in what we advise you'll do this week. Okay. And towards the end, hopefully there will be at least 10 minutes time where we will try to address any outstanding questions from the live stream. Okay, let's start with the current progress. So essentially, you can see an overview of our journey on this slide. And currently we are in the week 6. So you have been doing the fundamentals training. You have been looking at the build and deploy solutions, spent some time there. And furthermore, you have been doing the Coursera on-demand serverless data analysis, BigQuery and data flow. Followed by the serverless machine learning training on Coursera as well, on-demand training. And in week 5, you were looking at preparing for the DE certification training on Coursera. So a rather new training. And currently in week 6, there are essentially 2 main things I want to highlight, and arguably maybe I would say 3, because this live office hour is last but not least. But to start off first, the hands-on data engineering training on Quick Labs is, I would argue, critical that you work through thoroughly and make sure you understand the trainings. So when you do the training, please be mindful of just copy and pasting. Try to understand the commands that you type, or ideally type them yourself. I know it can take some time and stuff like that, but at least try to reinforce the learning. And the second thing is that there is a practice exam on our website. Please do the practice exam, and more information about that as soon as we go through this presentation. So exam information. The exam must be taken in person, okay, and in one of the many exam centers around the world. Google have exam centers in most of the major capitals. So across this region, you will find them in most of the capitals. And we work with a partner called Web Assessor, so you can log in on their website. You find a link on the certification page, okay? And the exam is 2 hours, and you have 50 questions. And these are multiple choice or multiple select. So approximately slightly more than 2 minutes per question is what you got. So time management will be very important, obviously. And at least not for every question maybe, but at least now and then you have a timer that you have a look at the timer and make sure that you're doing fairly well, keeping up to pace. In the practice exam, as you have seen, it's you have multiple choices and also multiple answers. So the question stem will essentially tell you how many you need to select. Okay, so as an example, if you have 5 choices, 5 possible answers, the question stem may tell you that, okay, which are the 2 preferred ways of doing solving a particular problem. Okay, so reading the question stem is obviously very, very important. So the most important thing to remember is that the exam is a practitioner's exam, meaning that you need to apply your personal experience and knowledge while solving it. Okay, and Our courses, labs, and other materials can teach you all about Google Cloud Platform's products and solutions. But what we really look for is people who understand how to apply the knowledge on real workloads in production. And for that, you need to draw from your own experience and from all the training that you have done on Quick Labs and Coursera as well. So it's not only cramming theory. We look for people who understand how to apply what you have been comprehending in terms of theory as well. And one way, as I just mentioned, is that you leverage what you already have in your field experience. So please do read the questions carefully just to reinforce this, and there may be hints in the question stem about the right answer. So sometimes there may be signaling words, or there may be some words that are hinting you towards a particular solution. Because just understand that the many choices could be possible. It's just that the questions and the exams usually look for the preferred way of solving a problem on GCP. So, and the question stem will hint you in the right direction, hopefully. So please do read the question stem very carefully and look out for signaling words that may hint you towards a particular solution. Or alternatively, I would argue that if you can't find them, try to use managed services as much as possible. And this can obviously result in different answers on the same technical requirement. So really be cognizant of that, okay? And while you're taking the exam, you can also mark questions that you're not sure about and review them again at the end. So there will be a button, something like a review button or something. I can't remember whether it's called review, but there is a button called something like mark for review, I reckon. And you can just mark a question for review if you don't know the answer from the top of your head, or if you are in doubt, you have spent too much time on a question, and then you can come back to it later. So essentially, all of your questions that have been highlighted for review, you will get the overview of which ones have been flagged, and you can review the ones that have been flagged, So don't mark for review if you are confident you selected the right answer, because then you will just have a lot of a pile of things to go through at the end, and you may not be spending your time wisely. So to register the exam, please visit the certification website and click the register button in the data engineering title. I think there is a button that says register. And if you don't have a web assessor account, you will be asked to create one for free. And it's very important that you sign up with your corporate or partner domain email. Otherwise, your certification will not count towards your employer's partner program requirements. So if you earlier have accidentally already created an account and used your Gmail or Hotmail or something else, that is okay, but you need to go through a form where we transfer your identity, your email, essentially, to be your corporate email, so that we can identify from which partner organization you are from, and also recognize the same. And remember, though, that you are using the email of your partner company, and the certification that you earn is yours, not your employer's. And if you were to leave your company, you can take the certification with you, okay? So FAQ and frequently asked questions on the cert. A frequently asked question that we get all the time is for how long is the Google search valid? So unless it's explicitly stated in the detailed exam descriptions, all GCP certs are valid for 2 years from the date of certified, and the candidate must recertify in order to maintain their certification status. Okay, so other cloud providers may have different lengths of validity, but this is the general guideline for all of our certs. Obviously, if it differs, please look out for the details for your particular certification, but use the 2 years as a guideline. Okay, so second question: what happens if I don't pass a certification exam? So in the unfortunate event that if you weren't up to the par with passing your exam, you can take it again after 14 days. Okay. And if you don't pass a second time, you must wait 60 days before you can take it a third time. And if you don't pass your third time, I mean, I hope obviously all of you already have passed before then. You must wait up to a year before taking it again. And you may attempt the exam in multiple languages, but each attempt, regardless of the language, counts towards the total number of attempts that you have this back off period for. So really, I think at some point in time when you're doing the practice exam, that should be a gauge of how you're doing and whether you are ready to go and sit at the actual exam. Yeah. So I would strongly advise you to try to. I mean, arguably some people never get ready. I also felt like I never got ready, but at least make sure that you are confident when you are doing the practice exam and you score fairly well. Because if you don't and you go and sit the actual exam, it may be a not great experience, and then you need to wait again before you can take the exam again, and there may be costs associated with taking the exam and so forth. Okay, so another question that we receive rather often is that why don't I receive my scores or any feedback when I submit my exam? So one different aspect of doing exams with Google Cloud Platform is that our exams are designed to determine only whether an individual meets a minimum passing standard. So they are not designed to be a diagnostic or spread people across like a scale of ability. So for this reason, the numerical scores are not meaningful for the student and can be misinterpreted. So once you do your exam, you will get answer of whether you have a pass or you did not pass. So this is essentially where you won't get like oh yeah, you had like I don't know 65% correct answers out of 100 or something like that. There is no like grading. It's either pass or not pass. Okay, so next question. Why don't I receive section feedback on my exam? So we do recognize that some other exam providers provide section feedback on their exams. We don't, because it's not meaningful and would be misleading. And the reason for that is that our exams are not designed to diagnose your strengths and weaknesses. Our exams sections are very broad topic categories and range of specific questions that you may receive for each section in a single exam sitting is extremely narrow by comparison. So based on this small amount of data, there is no like meaningful feedback at the section level that we can responsibly provide you with. So please keep this in your mind when you do the exam. I think all your effort and focus should be on doing your best in preparing and like try to analyze less after the actual exam of oh yeah, did I get this question right or wrong and stuff like that, because that, especially during the exam, you may lose a lot of time doing so. But obviously when you do the practice exam, you can maybe get a good overview of how you're doing for different kind of questions. So I don't know if it is about serverless data streaming pipelines and you're not doing well on those questions, then maybe after the practice exam, you got a hint of, hey, maybe this is something that I need to go reinforce before sitting the actual exam. Yeah. So moving on here, is the data from my certification shared? So essentially, Google follows strict guidelines that can be found in a data sharing policy for Google Cloud certifications. And when handling the information that we collect and process during the participation of the exam, Google really adheres to these guidelines that we are having. And you should be able to find this on the registration page that will give you more the fine print around how we share information or how it's being used in Google Cloud. And if you are registered using a partner email address, information whether you passed or failed might be visible to your employer. Yeah, so that's more for your information. Okay, so moving on here, next question. So is there a limit to the number of times I can take an practice exam? So there is not a limit, but as mentioned earlier, there is a back-off period. So you can read the FAQ or refer back to this recording later. So, as I mentioned the numbers earlier. So if you were not to get through on your first attempt, you need to wait a while before you can sit the exam again. Yeah. So you can use that time to prepare, to make sure that you're try to close your gaps and so forth before you actually go and sit the exam again. And this is also clearly elaborated on if you go to the data engineering website and under the cert, there's a FAQ somewhere there. And you can, I would strongly encourage everybody on this call to go through the FAQ, because there's a lot of relevant questions and answers there that may be worthwhile to be aware of before going for the exam. Okay, does the practice exam cover all of the content on the certification exam? So no, the practice exam will familiarize yourself only with the question types and the content, okay? So the practice exam is 20 questions. These are static questions, okay? And this is just to give you like a good understanding of what kind of questions are being asked, what is the format, and what is potential content to be covered. Okay, so the certification exam is no longer and will not cover all of the topics. It's just more to give a sample of what may potentially you may be exposed to. Okay, for a full list of the topics that you potentially may be exposed to during your exam, there is a exam guide. So if you go again to the certification website and you scroll down, you can see that there is an outline that will essentially show you the curriculum of everything that potentially may show up on your exam. With that said, it doesn't mean that everything will show up, but at least it will show you the topics that may show up. Okay. All right. Moving on here. So does the practice exam contain current test questions? So no, the practice exam does not contain current test questions. However, some of the practice exam questions may have appeared on previous versions of the exam. Okay, so the questions that you receive on the day when you sit your exam are likely different from what you did in the practice exam. Okay, but however, obviously, it's important to do thorough practice with the practice exam as well, so that you have a good understanding of what type of questions are being asked and what is the format. So if I do well on the practice exam, will I pass the certification exam? So there is no such guarantee, but it's a good indication. As I mentioned earlier, like the questions could be past recycled questions or questions that are somewhat similar with what you may or may not see on your exam. Okay, but there is no guarantee that just because you did like score really well on the practice exam that you will pass the actual exam. But if you find the practice exam easy, it may be a good indication that you are ready to attempt the actual exam. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the next steps. So as I mentioned earlier, we are currently in week 6. Okay, and week 6 is counting from July 15th. So we are already one second day of this week. And as shared earlier, it's of crucial importance that you do work through the hands-on labs with quick labs to really get yourself up to speed on how to learn some of the best practices for data engineering pipelines, how you do the ETL and all of these pieces, data warehousing, and all of the other components that are covered in the quests on data engineering. Really, really important. And the second thing that we touched upon too was the practice exam. So I would argue do the practice exam almost when you're ready to go and sit your actual exam. And the practice exam should be used as you should gauge yourself how you're doing. And when you do the practice exam, I would also encourage you to try to time yourself. So sit at home or wherever where it's quiet, you can focus, and then have a stopwatch so that you know approximately how much time you have been using. Yeah, it's 20 questions, and as mentioned earlier, and these are static questions. So if you do the practice exam a second time, you will see the same questions again. So just be mindful of that. Yeah. Okay, and then we hope, obviously, that you will go and sit your exam or sign up for your exam very soon. If you were to get into a difficulty where you can't sit your actual exam, please read the FAQ, what the rescheduling policies are, yeah? So you can postpone an exam, but just make sure that you have read the fine print of what is the process and if there's any fees associated with the same, yeah? Okay, so if you complete both hands-on labs quests by August 9th, you qualify for a voucher to do the data engineering certification. So very important here, the voucher, you need to do both of the quests by August 9th, and the voucher expires on August 23rd. So as a partner, you must redeem by then and sit your exam very soon after, okay? So you have already done the GCP Essentials quest, and now, as we just discussed, you need to do the data engineering quest. Okay, stay on track. So this week, I briefly touched upon some of these. Do the lab on Quick Labs, okay? And once you have done both of the quests, we will provide you with a certification exam voucher, and take the practice exam, gauge yourself on how you're doing, and try to see whether you are ready to actually go and sit the exam or not. And once you already register exam before the voucher expires on August 23rd, I think I mentioned on the previous slide here, August 23rd, yeah. So very, very important. Otherwise, there will be a exam fee of, I believe it's $200 if I'm not mistaken. It may depend also in which region you are, but it's really, really important, you know, to just like try to get it done while you got everything fresh in your mind. Okay, so for the quiz of the week, please go to GCC Google Cloud Connect and do the quiz. There is some really nice prizes. So I would encourage everybody on the bridge to, after this call, when you have time, go to our partner portal and do the quiz, because you may be one of the winners of some of these swags that are just like really awesome. Okay, now we are at the Q&A. So I will go ahead and look at the flow of questions that have been coming in, and I will try to address them as we go. Okay, so I got a document here where my colleague Sue and I have been like putting the questions. So the first question we see here is from David Leem. So thank you for your question, David. So the question is whether there is a lab in the exam. Okay, and essentially the exams are theoretical in terms of the format. So you will get a question stem, and then there is answer choices. So you need to select one or many among the answer choices, and that is described in the header of the question, like how many choices there should be. Like if there is a radio button and you click only one of them, there may only be one, and sometimes you need to check multiple. Okay, but there is no like lab in terms of like solutioning where you need to do troubleshooting or solving anything like G-Cloud commands and stuff like that. Okay, but you may be asked questions that are relating to potential lab exercises. So the time is limited per question, so the exam does not like ask you to do as I mentioned earlier, any kind of troubleshooting or any kind of solution. Okay, so let's see here. So there's a question from Vineet whether we do have any case studies. So I would recommend you, Vineet, to go to our official website and read about whether there will be any case studies or not. This is something that is constantly changing all the time. So it's really important to keep yourself up to date with what is the latest information. So I know that for some of the certs, as an example, for cloud architect, there were maybe 4 case studies. It has been reduced to 3. For data engineering, there may have been case studies and it may have changed. And this changes all the time. So I would really argue that you please go to the website and read what is the latest. Yeah. So you already know what is the website. And if I just open it up here, GCP data engineering certification. You just go here, I feel lucky, and then you read what is here. So if there is any case studies, you will find the case studies mentioned here. So there's an exam guide, and then there's training material, and there's readiness, okay, and solutions. So I can't here see any case studies, but please thoroughly read through all of this material and also the FAQ, yeah, because it will be mentioned here if there are any case studies, okay? So, and this is something that is changing very often, so I would strongly recommend that you have a close look at this. If there are any case studies, it will be made available to you before the actual exam. So I would strongly recommend you, Vineet, to, if any case studies are mentioned, to do preparation of the case studies, try to solve them on your own, because that may save you time on the actual exam day. If there are case studies at the moment that you do read the website, those case studies will be provided to you during the exam as well. But if you haven't read the case studies before sitting your actual exam, it may take some of the time to actually read up and understand the context. So if you find case studies for any of our certs, please do read through it before going for your exam. So there is a question here from Ratan Das. Till we sit for the exam on August 23rd, do we have lab access for practice? So there is quick labs that you should use, Ratan, for your practice. And if you don't have access to quick labs at this point, so Coursera will give you access to the quick labs built in. And if you need access beyond that, kindly reach out to your partner BDM, so essentially your business development manager or your partner engineer that your organization is working with. And we shall be able to provide you with additional access and tokens to use the lab environment of quick labs. I hope that addressed your question, Ratan. Okay, so a question here from Vineet. Any notes or exam experience shared by a person who have appeared for the exam recently? So there is quite strict compliance with the exams, Vineet. So what you see during the exam, you're not allowed to discuss with anybody else and share and document. So I would strongly discourage from doing so, because you don't want to end up in trouble for like sharing like potentially information that was on your exam and like, I don't know, get into an investigation or whatever. So if possible, please don't discuss or share details that you saw during your exam day. I don't know any of such documents, Vineet, where people are feedbacking on their past experience. But yeah, I think that just like be really cognizant of the sensitivity of the information that is during the exam, you know, and cascading the same out of the exam room. Okay. So I'll just wait here for 2 more minutes. If there's any other questions, please put them in the system so that we can try to address them on this call. Okay. So there doesn't seem to be any more questions at this point in time, and that is okay. However, don't hesitate if any questions pop up on your mind about the exam to liaise with your Google reps. So I would argue you should speak to your partner engineer for your partner organization. So in Southeast Asia, there is Danimak, Nantawat, and myself. So if you are in doubt or you have any concerns, please speak to us, and we are more than happy to help you. Other than that, please do work the data engineering quest and do the practice exam and assess yourself, and make sure that you leverage the vouchers that we mentioned earlier and try to sit your exam as soon as possible after your prep, so that you have everything that you have learned fresh. Okay. And with that said, I do wish everybody here on the call hopefully great outcome from your exams. And if I don't hear from you, please do let me know once you have cleared your exams. We are always happy to celebrate with our partners engineers. So thanks everybody for dialing in this morning, and speak to you soon.